Chevy C10s are the most popular classic truck out there, and in my opinion, the best looking one too. Now, why are they so popular? Well, in today's new series, The More You Know, we're gonna find out. Chevy started their line of trucks back in 1918, and over time, everyone knew how good a Chevy truck was, and of course, everyone knew how good the Chevy Silverado was. But the Chevy Silverado didn't pave the way for Chevrolet. Back in 1960, they actually started the Chevy C and K series, and this was going to be the truck that made its name for Chevy. And actually, shortly after they were made, they actually broke an all-time sales record in 1964, 65, and 66. So let's go ahead and check out the first generation of the C10 and talk a little bit about it. So what is a C and a K series truck? Well, C in C10 is actually going to stand for two-wheel drive, and then K in the K10 will actually stand for four-wheel drive. So if you're looking to build that 1,000 horsepower drag truck, then a C10 might be your better option. But if you'd like to have a truck that goes off-road, then a K10 will be your better option. Now, in my opinion, I don't know if I would actually go out and off-road with a K10 because the prices of C10 and K10s are pretty high. Now, there's only 4 generations of the C and K series truck, but there's actually only 3 generations of the C10 platform. And then in 1988, it went from the C and the K series to 1500 to 2500 and then 3500 like you see on today's modern trucks. As far as the 3 generations that go for the C10, you're gonna have a 1960 to 66, a 67 to 72, and then a 73 to 88. Now the first generation, which is the 1960 to 66, is gonna be my favorite generation out of all of them. I mean, this was the generation to really pave the way for C10s and make them as popular as they are today. The C10 was originally available in a 6.5-foot bed, which gave you a 115-inch wheelbase, or an 8-foot bed, which would have gave you a 127-inch wheelbase. And on top of that, thanks to Chevy from learning from their mistakes, they also increased the load capacity on the front axle, a bigger cab, and a bigger window, so that way it was a lot more comfortable when you sat in the interior of the truck. Another thing that's pretty important was the different body styles that you were able to purchase back in the day for these C10s. I mean, you can either purchase a fleet side, a step side, a custom panel truck, or even my favorite, the Suburban SUV. Another thing that I feel like that's worth mentioning, in the first generation of the C10, they actually had a new suspension design. So they now had independent front suspension, and then they had a sported trailing arm in the rear with a coil spring, which is a huge game changer from the previous years. Moving on to the 67 to 72 Chevy C10, which was also the star child for Chevy because of its new updated look. And this was also going to be another great year for Chevy and its C and K series truck line. This generation of the C and K series trucks was a giant step for Chevy. They basically updated the exterior of the truck to be able to look a lot more modern for its time period. But not only the exterior, they also updated the interior as well, and also gave people actual factory options so they could personalize the truck to their own liking. The appearance of the Chevy C10 wasn't the only thing that got modernized though. They also were able to upgrade the suspension during these years as well too. We now have a coil spring up front, and they ditched the drum brakes up front and added a disc brake conversion as well too, which helped out a ton. Now the 67 to 72 Chevy C10 was the most popular at its time, and it is definitely still the most popular in today's time too. Last but not least, we have the 73 to 88 Chevy C10, otherwise known as a square body. Now, if you thought the first generation and the second generation looked different, well, the third generation is going to look completely different from all the previous years. If you're not sure what a square body looks like, well, it's literally shaped like a square. Square body was offered with a short bed, which was 6.5 foot and a 117-inch wheelbase. And of course, you could buy one in a long bed as well too, which was an 8-foot bed and a 131-inch wheelbase. Besides the looks of the truck, Chevy figured out how to update the truck's suspension to be able to make it more friendly to drive and definitely a lot more comfortable. We now have control arms up front with rubber bushings, and then we ditched the coil springs in the rear and added leaf springs, which made a huge difference in the way that the truck actually drove. If we were to end up comparing the square body suspension to the first or second generation C10 suspension, it's basically comparing apples to oranges, honestly. Now earlier we did talk about the different trim levels that the C10 did have, and they basically carried themselves all the way up to the square body, but there are a few different trim levels that the square body ended up having that the other generations didn't. Now the different trim levels that the square body will have compared to the other generations is the Longhorn Edition, the Cheyenne Super, and the custom. Besides the extra trim levels they added for the square body, it actually got even better in 1978 because they introduced the 5.7 liter V8. The 5.7 liter V8 was powerful and reliable, and honestly, I don't know anybody who didn't like this engine. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better by adding some extra trim levels and the 5.7 liter V8, in 1986 we were actually offered the first fuel-injected Vortec V6. Now I know what you're thinking, why am I getting excited over a V6? And the reason I'm getting so excited over this is because it was the first fuel-injected engine that Chevy offered for their truck series. And this Vortec V6 actually ended up turning into the Vortec V8, which a lot of us know and love in today's time. I mean, the Vortec V8 is fuel injected and it is in most modern trucks in today's time. So if we never got that V6, then who knows if we would have ever got the V8. If Chevy never made the C10, then who knows if we would have got the Silverado today. They did a killer job back then making these trucks because they were very popular, but they're even just as popular in today's time, if not even more popular. Hopefully this information was helpful or just fun to listen to. I'm hoping to do more of these series in the future. Now it is time to drop a gear and disappear. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need any classic truck parts, just click the link down below in our description.